Most buyers walk into a house and just start judging the kitchen and the bathrooms. But quite frankly, that's backwards, because you can spot a bad house in about 60 seconds, but only if you know where to look. But what really matters is avoiding the money pit. Hey, my name is Jimmy. When I walk into a house, I like to run a 60-second scan. We start on the outside first, then we go to the inside with the big systems, and then we focus on some cosmetic factors that we might miss. And quite frankly, the last one on this list is one that surprises most of my clients. So when I'm showing a house and I'm trying to guide my clients on figuring out what they need to look for to avoid a bad house, we start on the outside first, because the outside tells you what the house has been fighting. Before we even open the front door, we are looking, because location and structure cannot be renovated, at least cheaply. So first, I'm looking for the location on the street. Most buyers don't really even consider this. They're focusing on the inside of the house, but the street can change everything. Is the house beside, let's say, a bus stop? Maybe that means there's people that are standing outside a lot. Maybe there's a lot more noise pollution that happens on the street. Is it by a stop sign? Or maybe even worse, is it a three-way stop? Meaning the lights from the car on the one side of the stop are going to be beaming directly into your living room. Or is the house maybe backing on into a commercial space? Is it a school potentially? Are there parking lots? Are there going to be delivery trucks? Are there late night activities that are happening there? I've seen buyers honestly fall in love with a house until they realize what's happening behind it, which is really sad. The house might be great, but the street might not be. The other thing that we look for is neighbors. We'd be surprised to think that we have to really think about who might live beside us when we're thinking out of a house, but actually it is quite important. And because quite frankly, neighbors can ruin a really good house. So we start looking for patterns, right? Is the yard well maintained? Is there clutter? Is the grass maybe overgrown? Is the property a rental with multiple units? Again, we look to see if we can find a mailbox with multiple numbers on it, giving an idea of who and how many people might live there. That could mean high turnover and more noise. Maybe there are dogs in the backyard, especially with multiple tenants, that could cause more noise pollution. This is something that we see often when we're walking through a neighborhood. And the house, even though it is the biggest thing, it's only half of the experience. And quite frankly, you'd be surprised at how bad the experience of owning a home can be with a poor neighbor. It can really make a significant negative experience for you. So first we look at the street, then we look at the neighbors, and now we sort of look at the big exterior clues. Because these are expensive items. This is where things can get pretty pricey. We look at the roof. Is it sagging? Is there moss growing? Are the shingles curling? Are shingles missing? But we can't always see the roof because you might be buying a house in the winter, but we can hopefully see a few shingles to give an impression of what they might be like. Plus, we like to try to find out what age of the roof is, as typically a newer age's roof are going to have less problems compared to one that's 20 years old. You have to really watch out for an old flat roof, because listen, not all flat roofs are bad, but older ones often mean there's a future replacement. There are ways to mitigate future issues by putting a little bit of a peak on a flat roof, but these are all things that cost money. So another item besides the roof is you look at trees. Is there a tree that could be close to the foundation that could be impacting the foundation? Maybe some patio stones are lifting. Maybe the roots are close and impacting some of the plumbing systems. Now, when we're walking around the house, if we can see the foundation, at least in front of the parging, we can at least get an idea of how well the parging has been cared for, which might indicate how well the foundation has been cared for. So if the parging looks cracked and just missing, well, that might be signs that there might be moisture issues on the inside. It doesn't always mean it's a problem, but it does give indications of something we need to look at on the inside. Home inspectors flag these constantly. Outside problems are usually expensive problems, so we need to address them and know them ahead of time so you don't end up with a big hole in your pocket. Okay, so once we've given the outside a good look around, now we go to the inside and check the systems that typically fail first, and also the ones that cost a lot of money. So we try to ignore the staging, we're trying to ignore the layout, because the systems are the things that cost a lot of money. So the big 6 systems that I think a lot of clients don't think about when they're thinking about buying a home, which makes sense, but it's our job to bring these up so you understand what you might be getting, are the foundation, the roof, the windows, the electrical system, the plumbing system, and then the furnace or the HVAC systems, which also includes the AC. This is where being able to see the foundation of the basement is really important. Not all houses will have that opportunity, but if we can see the foundation, it is very important to go look at it to see the condition and to find out if there are some cracks. Now, not all cracks are bad. Some are thin, maybe an eighth of an inch. Others could have just been settling cracks from literally when they built the house. What really matters is over the years, has moisture come through this crack that's been a consistent basis that the homeowner either didn't know about or hasn't bothered to do anything about. And again, not all cracks are the same. If it's, again, like a 1/8 inch of a crack, those can be fixed. And some foundation companies out there, they can fix these cracks with a certain type of polymer injection system that they have, and it's not that much money. I've seen it done. Other cracks, I've seen that literally I could put my fist through that would make anyone a little nervous about buying a home like that. So small cracks, they can be normal, but bigger cracks, they need our attention. And it also depends on what kind of foundation we were talking about. If it's a poured concrete foundation, something from, let's say, 1940s onward, well, those cracks, if they're smaller, they are easier to repair. But if we're talking about a block foundation and there are cracks in the block and there's evidence of moisture, that can be much more challenging and also much more costly, because the way to fix a block foundation is much different than the way to fix a poured foundation. So as we think about these big 6 items, we're going to move to the wiring and the plumbing. So we check for older systems because these are the ones that impact your insurance premium. So first is our plumbing. Galvanized plumbing is very common in older homes. It can corrode over time. This is something that restricts water flow. We need to be able to watch out for galvanized plumbing. It's one of the first things that your insurance company will find out about, and they will ask you to replace it. And so the next is wiring, and the biggest wiring that causes your issues is typically knob and tube wiring. Most of this has been removed over the last number of decades because it's from the early 20th century. But every once in a while, I'll see something where the electrical panel has one active line that's still in there. The one I see most common is something that runs, let's say, the light all the way into the 3rd floor attic. That might still be there, and that's something that as you purchase that home, you're going to have to replace, as your insurance company will not want any wiring to be involved with knob and tube. Now, the other electrical aspect is aluminum wiring. So overall, aluminum is just fine, but insurance companies will often require you to pigtail aluminum wiring, meaning you have to get an electrician in there and they pigtail the ends, the exposed parts of the aluminum wiring into copper, into the box, and in all the outlets around the house. So it can cost about $15,000 to $1,000 depending on the size of the home and all of the electrical outlets that need to be done. But this is something that insurance companies will require you to get done unless you want to pay a premium for having unpigtailed aluminum wiring. And quite frankly, it's usually just not worth it. So I've walked through many houses where that element of the aluminum wiring, because it looks normal, you really have to look into the wiring to see, to make sure, is it copper or is it aluminum? And that surprised a lot of clients. And then all of a sudden, clients have an extra expense to go on top of the purchase as well. So look, older systems like aluminum wiring, they're not deal breakers. Knob and tube, yeah, those ones, they're not deal breakers either, but you need to be able to budget appropriately to be able to repair those shortly after you move in. Even ideally have the seller do it prior to you moving in. Another one that's a little bit more tricky is moisture within the structure. So we can definitely check the basement, but if the basement is finished, it's hard to see behind walls. This is where inspections are actually quite important. But if the basement does seem damp, that usually can be a warning sign. Sometimes that can be literally fixed by a dehumidifier because it's not that significant of an issue. I mean, we are in the ground, so having a little bit of humidity might be expected. But if you can smell it immediately, if there's that damp smell, it doesn't mean it's automatically serious, but it definitely means it's worth investigating as you're doing your inspection. So hopefully your inspector will be able to provide a little bit more information about where that dampness might be coming from. So we try to look for little clues, things like water lines on unfinished walls or stains on baseboards. Maybe if it's not just one dehumidifier running, but multiple, and there's still a damp smell in the basement, I mean, that's definitely a bit of a red flag. Then we also have to watch out for some structural signs. I mean, those ones are a little bit more challenging to find, but little things like a door maybe doesn't close flush, or maybe the floors are sloping badly. Sloping floors do not mean that the house is falling apart. It definitely is common in older homes here in Ottawa, but if it's really bad, we want to investigate why those floors are sloping so poorly, and is it because of consistent settling on one of the footings in the foundation. Now, the good thing is inspectors see these patterns in homes all the time, so they often can speak to them in a calm and measured manner that gives you the information to be able to make an accurate decision. But these are definitely things we try to see as well within them. But one thing to note is moisture problems rarely stay small. So if there is an issue with moisture, that can compound over time if not dealt with. And the cost of waterproofing a foundation, whether on the inside or the outside, if needed, is pretty significant and something you want to try and avoid. So first we look at the outside and then the inside, and now we focus on some of the cosmetic red flags. These ones are challenging to notice because the home can look great, but we have to sometimes look a little bit deeper within the cosmetic changes to make sure what exactly are we looking at here. Some of the nicest houses can be the riskiest. So let's talk about a flipped home. So the one that was purchased a few months ago, renovated, and now it's back on the market. So not all flips are bad, but some are rushed, and we have to make sure that that rushed work does not impact your future use. So how do we even know it's a potential flip? Well, we look at sales history. So if a house was sold a few months prior and it comes back on the market 3 months, we can look at the pictures from when it was sold. We can look at the condition of what is now, and you can tell very quickly that the home has been renovated cosmetically, whether it's new paint, new drywall, new flooring, new kitchens, new baths, maybe a finished basement, maybe some cosmetic curb appeal on the outside. But that is usually the flip timeline. And again, flips aren't bad, but fast flips increase the risk of rushed work. So we want to look at the details of the flip, not just how nice the kitchen was, but are there clean grout lines? Are they even? Does the paint look even? Was it done by a professional or was it done quickly by a DIY system? Are there blobs of paint on the edges that wasn't cleaned up? If there was new drywall put in, was the joint compound smoothed out before painted, or was it rushed and lumpy? Are the cabinets in the kitchen solid with slow closed drawers, or are they more hollow? So sometimes we can actually check to see if the materials are high quality or of low quality. But maybe you find out there's cheap vinyl flooring used, and when you walk on cheap vinyl flooring with your feet, not just your shoes, but with your feet, it can feel plasticky, it can feel sort of light, as if something's missing there. Maybe the doors feel light, maybe the trim looks a little thin, or maybe the layout of the renovation didn't really work for the house. One big red flag is when sometimes you see one bedroom only accessed through another bedroom. That's sort of like their way of trying to add in a third or fourth bedroom within the floor plan that wasn't really designed for it in the first place. These are the things that buyers notice after they move in. Cosmetics really do hide a lot of shortcuts that were potentially taken. So spotting a bad house, it really isn't about finding perfection. It's about avoiding a money pit, because no house is going to be perfect. We do a quick scan, and this quick scan can help you make better decisions while you're looking at homes to avoid that big mistake. And the biggest issues that I find clients run into, it usually appears during an inspection, because we try to find these issues out when we go to view it. It's all about educating you on the process. And in the next video, I'm going to show you inspection problems that typically kill deals the fastest. So outside first, your systems are second, and your cosmetics are last. It takes a minute, but you make better decisions in the end.